Welcome to a conversation on Second
Kings.
Kings. We're on week 9. I thought last week was great.
Did you? Are you? We
I
missed
do.
you.
I told Scott after service, because we talked about it was Zechariah, and then we talked about the word Zakar, and Caleb goes, "I want is Zakar part of the name Zechariah?"
Oh,
And I didn't know, so I looked it up, but it actually is. So Zechariah
It's the promise, right?
Zechariah is a combination of Zakar and Yahweh. So it's either remember Yahweh or Yahweh remembers.
Yeah.
There's debate on that. And so Zechariah is literally doing what his namesake was.
Yeah.
I love that.
So that was like a after service thing that we discovered together at the conversation. I was like, oh, that would have been cool
And
to know.
like the guy named Remember God walks up and says, "Hey, don't forget to remember God," and then gets killed.
Remember God? Oh, okay. That was weird. No, I love that. Well, that's one thing I've been thinking about is we're like studying all this stuff is what do the names of people mean? Because there are so many moments where, like especially the older stories where they say the name and then they tell you the meaning and it obviously has connection, but then it's like, well, I mean, when they don't tell you the meaning, does it still have some connection? And I feel like obviously it does. And I like that. I like that. Yeah. I just like that there's like these meanings that you may not know unless you're paying extra close attention.
It's so hard to pay close attention all the time. I've been my struggle lately. I feel like a lot of these, it is the same story over and over. That's part of the point of Second Kings. But lately I'm like, I don't want to do this
No
again.
failure
And they all have J names. And so I'm like, is
or
this
A
the
names.
same person?
Or yeah, an
Over.
A name. I'm
I
like
can't.
Ahab and Ahaz, are they the same? And they're not.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say is that it's every once in a while I've thought in this series I've heard. I feel like it's been said while we've been even podcasting this, talking about how a lot of very rarely would a sermon series, teaching series on First and Second Kings. I thought, why not? But yeah,
it's the same story,
yeah.
very similar over and over again.
But there are I really like the nuances of these stories, and then I and we're not going to. We could turn around and do First and Second Kings again right away. That's why I always feel this is and we're not to the end completely, but we're getting closer to the end. When you get to the end of a book study, and then you like the honest evaluation, it's like we've touched 1% of all of the things that are present in the story and narrative and text, and so we
Well,
in
and the context you gain in that process would have been
Right?
so helpful at the beginning.
In the beginning.
yeah. Well, and we're uh, the thing that is really no one should ever do a Sunday that's focusing on 4 chapters, 13, 14, 15, 16 of Second Kings. It says this, there's 12 kings mentioned, and we have, most of them are Israel, Northern Kingdom kings. There's more mentioned there because they're worse and they get killed more. Judah, they're a little bit better and they live a little longer. They rule a little bit longer, but they're still rough. And we have a slide this week that has just simple, and I would say A, B, C, D, F, but there's no A's. Creating the kings. Most of the kings, there's a lot of D's and F's. And the heart of the narrative that comes out in the midst of this is that, again, the hope is not in the king. And then this Second Kings is presumed that it's written as a letter to the, the people who are living in exile after all this. So at the spoiler alert is that what's coming is that eventually they're going to be invaded, and it's not just going to be a compromise. It's going to be they're going to be taken into exile, and Jerusalem is going to be destroyed. And the readers of this text would be asking the question, how did we get here? Here we are in Babylon, or here we are as a survivor of Jerusalem is in ruins, the walls are down, the temple is in chaos, all these things. How did we get here? Like the callback to Solomon's moment where it was excess, there were authority, they revered in the world, and then all of a sudden now we're just a shell. How did this all happen? And I love the thinking the process through. It's like, well, is this a story of them just making God matter and matter, and finally God just went crazy on them? And actually, the narrative isn't God freaking out on them. It's that God going, "Hang on here a second. No, no, don't do that. It's just yeah, I'm trying to help you out here." And the people wandering farther and farther away from what God had them to walking in this blessing to now walking away from it. And it wasn't that God got mad and spited them, which is I think is a can be a perspective that Christians today can have. It's like the reason I'm going through this hard time is because God's mad at me, and it isn't necessarily not that, and it isn't necessarily that you always made bad decisions and you're just walking in that. It's just that there are hard times come, and that's really the heart of this narrative today. Is that a difficult, trying season comes, and in the midst of that, it's an opportunity to make some good decisions, and it's super easy to make some bad decisions.
I think so in Isaiah, the text today, it's Ahaz, not Ahab. See, it's hard to remember all
Yep.
the names, but Ahaz, and there's wars happening. And like he said, a lot of the kings are being killed and assassinated, and all these things keep happening. And Isaiah 7 talks about this
So that
kingdom being
just so
spared.
Second Kings, Second Chronicles, and Isaiah, they all cross over in the same period of time. And so this is uh, actually, I think that if there is a good use of AI in a Bible study, would be to say, hey, where do these to get a synoptic like the stories to cross over each other? It's super helpful because it's so easy. Like if you're doing a slow read of Second Kings, a slow read of Second Chronicles, and a slow read of Isaiah, those will be years apart. And you read, yeah. And so my brain would never make that connection, but to have that layered on top and to realize that Isaiah and Second Kings and Second Chronicles, these are all about the same narrative
Yeah.
and different perspectives. So I interrupt that.
Well,
Back to
it's okay.
Isaiah.
Well, saying that when you're reading Second Kings and Second Chronicles, like it's Second Kings 16 and Second Chronicles 28, like you just quickly read the story and you think this is just a bad king. This is just a bad guy doing bad things and being an idiot. But then when you bring in Isaiah 7, well, I
Yeah,
mean,
very specific.
you know, but when you bring in Isaiah 7, you see there's a lot of fear happening. And the story isn't just about bad people doing bad things, but people that are really afraid and really scared and don't know how to respond. And in that moment, like, God is like, I'm here, test, do all this stuff. And it's hard for me to like when you go in that deep when God is like so obvious and saying, I'm gonna help you, I'm gonna walk you through this, like you're not alone. And he still goes like blatantly is like,
Mm.
I'm not gonna test you, I'm not going to rely on you. Like as a follower of Christ, how do you so obviously and blatantly and maybe like Ahaz is not living their life right there, but like Israel is supposed to be this kingdom that's following after God. Like, how do you so blatantly say, I'm not even gonna try? I'm not even
Yeah, it's sort of
Do you think it was that like intentional?
it felt like at least in the written story, it feels very like
it
like God says, test me, and Ahaz responds and says, no, I'm not. Like so in the story it's intentional. But I'm open to your
It's hard to know exactly what's happening, but the way that I perceive it, I guess, is that it's like I think just when you come under a moment of pressure or things are
yeah,
hard or things,
yeah,
I think like you end up falling back to what makes the most sense in that moment. But
yeah,
because things are hard, you have like blinders on, you can't see.
yeah.
And so I don't know if it's necessarily like a rejection of God as much as it is
yeah.
in desperation, his response.
Oh, for sure.
So um, a group of nations, including Israel, uh, what teamed up and were going to be attacking Judah. So he's desperate.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the word to Ahaz, and this is to you know, be on guard, be cautious, don't be afraid. Yeah, it's some good. Be careful, be calm. Don't be afraid. Don't lose heart. These things, when you are being crushed by fear, that's a really intense why in the road. And I think that, uh, again, I think of like, it's very easy to think about like half-hearted consoling of somebody. It'll be okay, buddy. And so those moments generally, I think of them as kind of be like, get away from me.
I think a lot of times we give Ahaz, or we give people that we see externally, we almost give people too much credit of like, oh, they must have made the wrong choice because they must have had all the
Yeah.
clear info and been able to see it unemotionally and all these things. When in reality, when you're in the midst of it,
Oh, for sure.
he may be trying like there may be no malice
Yeah.
in
Oh, yeah, yeah.
in
No, I
this.
think
It may just be this is what I don't
Mhm.
know. Like I don't know what else to do.
well,
I know, it's
this isn't a narrative of him being the bad guy.
no, but I do feel like you're trying I mean, I think where I'm, like, struggling in this is, like, I do think in fear, like, I totally can see how you just make a decision of trying to
Survive.
survive and make the best choice and all of that. And in the writing, the way that Isaiah is written, and I was, like, just thinking, like, what style is the writing of Isaiah? And it's prophetic, I guess, but, like not I guess, but, like, it just is such a like, God says, "Ask the Lord for a sign," and Ahaz said, "I will not ask, I will not put the Lord to the test." And so it feels very like, it does feel kind of blatant, but it is, like, obviously in fear. It
Yeah.
just feels like and it feels like in that fear, he's making a choice intentionally. So, I don't know. That's why I'm like, there's a pull in there for me that's
There's a there's a little bit of a paradox that it points to the value of what's internal, is that there's a call to not test God,
yeah,
and there is also calls to test God.
yeah.
And the internal of it is that, is this a moment? This is probably this could be much more processed out. I think that when you're testing God out of selfish ambition, one thing like, God, are you going to give me an easy pass or fix this, whatever? And then there's also the other side, as opposed to just fixing or making things easy, is a moment of it's a faith moment. It's a building up to the confidence that God is in control, not just fix my stuff, but is in control. And this seems like a moment where his response to not test God was in response to his uh, not focusing on faith or trusting God, but to run away from that. Why would I even? I If you have a moment to, you see something is, this is not coffee in my cup. You say you should try it, see if it's really good. And I'm like, it's not. I'm not gonna test it. And that's what it feels like to me. Is that uh, again, he drowning. He just goes. Uh, it's especially because you're drowning.
And culturally, they weren't supposed to test God,
No, I know. Yeah, yeah.
which
It makes it confusing.
it's complex.
And so
Because it's testing God would be showing a lack of faith, but then Ahaz not testing God in this moment also shows
yeah,
a
not a
lack of faith.
Lovely. Lovely.
That's annoying.
And so his response, we so again, if you read in just Second Kings, the story goes, Ahaz is in fear, and then he turns to Assyria. You zoom out, you go to Isaiah, and it says he's in fear, and then God goes, "All right, slow down a little bit. Let's process this.
Yeah.
I'm going to help you out here. Make it easy. It's going to be okay." And even in Isaiah, it says that I promise you, this is not going to be a bad thing. You're going to win. It's going to be safe. And then you go back to Second Kings. Instead of turning to God, we just see him make a decree with Assyria. for help. And it wasn't just a moment of like, "Hey, Assyria, could you help out a little bit? Let's build an alliance." But rather, it is Ahaz just selling completely selling out to the Assyrians. He goes to visit them, and he has this moment, and he leaves Jerusalem. The temple, his relationship with God, like the recall back to the Solomon moment from First Kings, where the dedication of the temple, and that this I put in the notes there that the temple is this place of sacrifice, of grace, of love, of for foreigners when you're in need, all this. He leaves that, goes to the Assyrian king, and he goes, "I really like what you guys got." And he sends back a message and goes, "Remodel the temple, make it look like this." And so, like, it wasn't this, but I just kind of like imagine every church in the world. I've done weddings at a lot of churches. I love to find the crap storage closet. Every church has one. We have them. Yeah, and so, I just imagine in the temple, them just, like, pushing the altars into the next to the Christmas camel. And yeah, yes, the choir robes they haven't worn since the '80s, and so, anyway, and so there's, like, scooting stuff out, and they've given the gold of the temple to Assyria, so, like, looted it, and then they've rearranged and made these bronze altars, which was, like it's this declaration, it's like a Uh, it's it it's supposed to land as, like, being this so iconic, radical, weird moment, like, so we gave away the gold. The king goes to the place we sent the gold and says, "Let's make these bronze altars." So it's like, "Let's make these aluminum foil crowns." And, uh, and so this narrative ends that sure, they had the short-term victory, but in the process, they sold out it all. Sold out it all.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely like this well, and it was a short-term victory. Like, in the end, this led to
Yeah, because the readers would have been going, "How did we get to Babylon? We're living here in Exodus." Yeah, yeah,
because like, when we read about their like, the Israelites being in exile, like, it always comes across as, like, a punishment that, like, God has done and all this, but it's so many continuous choices that, like, it was like, these feel like the natural consequences to what was happening. Like, I it's just I think when I've read the Old Testament, I always think that this feels like a very like a specific punishment, and I just when you go back, you go, "Wait a second, was it" I mean, I know that that's how it's written, but is it also that this is consequences of the choices that were being made over and over again?
Well, for a long time, there was a lot back to the covenant,
Yeah.
but at this point, he replaced it. And he's like, okay, the temple is no longer going to be a place where we connect with God. It's going to be a place where we connect with, with foreign deities, and so it's like he's actively taking the faucet and turning it off. And, and God's like, don't, please don't. I'm here. I'm going to give you the victory. And he goes, you know, it just places the entire.
and it's this narrative isn't a it's not meant to be it isn't a narrative. How how are these people keep God? It's the story of them continually running from God, and then the thing that keeps rising is that these incredible. It's not just a miracle. It's that even in this run, God is still pursuing humanity, and so we come to our contemporary context, and we go, I think it's so easy to go, well, the world is such a mess now, and the thing the mess is, but the thing that we should be constantly looking for is the beauty of how God is seeking us out in the midst of the mess. And that can be that is the recurring theme in King that keeps on popping up, and I these should be something that we hunt up in our contemporary life, and that question of how will we persist, you know, Ahaz, he shows that his pursuit is for he's going to persist in seeking fixes and to uh, have persistent in making seem and really bad decisions with long-term consequences. And I just go back to the Isaiah moment where the message to him from God is just slow down for a second. It's going to be okay. And when I'm in a moment of spiral, I can be a little resistant to just chill out for a second. Yeah. I, um, we didn't do it before, and we don't have to do it now, but I did a little one of those quiz survey things. It's thinking about ideal in life, situations that are ideal in life. And so, um, giving yourself a score, if there's different things like sleep is the first one on here. So, uh, I always ignore the ideal being a low score or a 7 high score is that I always hold my ground and I always pursue the ideal. And I think that uh, it's very easy to, you know, time with God or showing multitasking, all these things. What is the ideal in multitasking? And everybody's ideal is a little different. I think it's interesting to think about where we come up with the ideal, but then from that to just go, uh, I have, I think I know what's supposed to happen, and it's crazy. I compromise on that all the time, or I hold strong in that. And what's happening that we would have things that for me, as I did this, like it's crazy that I would some things I am compromising, and some things I'm like, it's important, but I'll let it slide. And I think that's really what Ahaz is walking in here is that he had this moment where these things that should have been things he held uncompromising, he just goes, "What can you do?" And
Kind of
then,
like when the drowning person was the lifeguard underwater.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I think it's really good to question some of the process. One question we're going to ask is how do you seek help from others while still being discerning and realistic about other people's imperfection? Because I, I bring that up because this narrative can be really quickly. It says it has looked to the Assyrians, and the Assyrians were terrible people. The lesson in this is don't get help from people, get help from God, and that's not God helps us through people. And I think just even some of the conversations I've had over the last couple of weeks with different people that have some church hurt is that how do you we have to get to a point where we slow down, receive help, have get perspective, and receive that help and perspective from people that are imperfect. And, and so this isn't a narrative of saying the Assyrians were terrible, everybody's terrible. Don't trust people. It's goes farther than that.
Yeah. There's wisdom and discernment in this moment.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
I do think people are part of the story. And I think that the Assyrians were goal was to take not goal was to have power, but they definitely aimed to bring people to their idols and their gods and take attention away from God. And how do you how do you bring those two together? Like you do need help from people and having some wisdom and discernment in that and recognize like sometimes we do have to make sure in those especially in this I mean this is a volatile moment. This is not just like he's not the strong one in this moment. He is weak, he's falling apart. How do you have some discernment in the people that you look up to and
Yeah.
lean on and
It, the kind of tweaking of like how you wrote a question and putting together with some other questions. What are some keys to make good decisions when fear feels crushing? Like, so I think so. Corner churchy, like back end processing thing is that it's very easy to go. When life feels crushing, make good decisions. Ta-da! You know, it says in something chapter verse, so make good decision. But again, I think that just the same reason of like realizing that there are different areas in my life that it's whoops, it's too easy for me to compromise. What's happening here? And and when we can narrow a focus, say uh, it's all about time with God, which is so important. And somebody might say, "Well, I compromise with that," and some people would say, "I never compromise with that." So, what is it? And where do I need to, when life gets heavy? Where do I need to give a little extra focus? And how do I, when fear or stress or anxiety become crushing? Uh, a great skill set that I would want from my friends and family is to make for me is to make wise decisions when life gets crushing. Give me that one. Give me that. Yeah, sell that one. But process.
Yeah, I think part of the practice of it is that if you want to make good decisions when things are hard, make decisions when things are a little less hard. And like if you view every life situation as an opportunity to practice those things, like, because you won't always, because and it's going back to what we were saying earlier about Ahaz here. Is like, it's not people making bad decisions or making the wrong decisions that have consequences. I don't think it's usually a malicious or they're trying to do the wrong thing. I think it's you get to a moment where you're just trying to survive, and making a bad decision is how you survive today at the cost of tomorrow. And so we gotta be people that encourage practicing that early. Like,
Yeah.
I think of like,
Natural. So,
yeah, I mean, I laugh. I think college students think life is so hard, and you go, oh, you don't know. You should practice making good decisions now, so that when it actually has consequences, you
Yeah,
have practice.
the rule of 10,000. I mean, it's often said in like athletics and stuff. You have to do something 10,000 times before you become an
10,000 hours.
and and the thing that baseball players that have done that still strike out. And so with this, I go back to Isaiah 7:4. God saying to me, "Be careful, be calm, don't be afraid, don't lose heart." I need to put 10,000 hours into that. I need to put 10,000 hours into that. And so it's practicing that when it's the sun is shining, and also when everything's on. Be careful, keep calm, don't be afraid, don't lose heart.
I love last week. I mean, I don't want to keep anyways, I loved last week when we talked about not being afraid because we
Mm,
talked about how maybe it was 2 weeks ago, but we talked about how fear is going to be there.
yeah,
Like fear is a thing, it's an emotion. We're gonna have fear. Like it's not a sin to have fear. It's how we respond in that. And I think that like over and over again we see in the Bible God saying, do not be afraid, do not be afraid, do not be afraid. And it's not that they're afraid. That's why he says it. They are afraid, like that's why
Yeah,
it's
you
happening.
wouldn't say that to somebody that's not afraid.
Yeah, right. Yeah. If you're not afraid, why would you bring that up? You're
mm,
bringing up because there is fear.
yeah,
And in that, he's over and over going saying, don't be afraid. I have you.
yeah.
Like, I'm with you. I'm walking with you. You're not alone in this. Like, you don't have to be afraid. So.
It's great. We'll see you guys next week.